They were counted, enclosed in a package, and sealed in his presence, and he then locked the package at once in his portmanteau. A portmanteau with an ordinary lock? No, Mr. Shaw insisted on a special lock being fitted to it by Hubsers. Philip, as I say, placed the package at the bottom of the trunk. It was stolen just a few hours before reaching New York. A vigorous search of the whole ship was made, but without result. The bonds seemed literally to have vanished into thin air. Poirot made a grimace. But they did not vanish absolutely, since I gather that they were sold in small parcels within half an hour of the docking of the Olympia. Well, undoubtedly, the next thing for me is to see Mr. Ridgway. I was about to suggest that you should lunch with me at the Cheshire Cheese. Philip will be there. He's meeting me, but does not yet know that I've been consulting you on his behalf. We agreed to this suggestion readily enough and drove there in a taxi. Mr. Philip Ridgway was there before us, and looked somewhat surprised to see his fiancée arriving with two complete strangers. He was a nice-looking young fellow, tall and spruce, with a touch of greying hair at the temples, though he could not have been much more over 30. Miss Farquhar went up to him and laid her hand on his arm. "You must forgive my acting without consulting you, Philip," she said. "Let me introduce you to Monsieur Hercule Poirot, of whom you must often have heard, and his friend, Captain Hastings." Ridgway looked very astonished. "Of course I've heard of you, Monsieur Poirot," he said as he shook hands. "But I had no idea that Esme was thinking of consulting you about our trouble." "I was afraid you would not let me do it, Philip," said Miss Farquhar meekly. "So you took care to be on the safe side," he observed with a smile. "I hope Monsieur Poirot will be able to throw some light on this extraordinary puzzle, for I confess frankly that I'm nearly out of my mind with worry and anxiety about it." Indeed, his face looked drawn and haggard, and showed only too clearly the strain under which he was labouring. "Well, well," said Poirot, "let us lunch, and over lunch we will put our heads together and see what can be done. I want to hear Mr. Ridgway's story from his own lips." Whilst we discussed the excellent steak and kidney pudding of the establishment, Philip Ridgway narrated the circumstances leading to the disappearance of the bonds. His story agreed with that of Miss Farquhar in every particular. When he had finished, Poirot took up the thread with a question. "What exactly led you to discover that the bonds had been stolen, Mr. Ridgway?" He laughed rather bitterly. "The thing stabbed me in the face, Monsieur Poirot. I couldn't have missed it. My cabin trunk was half out from under the bunk and all scratched and cut about where they tried to force the lock." "But I understood that it had been opened with a key." "That's so. They tried to force it but couldn't, and in the end they must have got it unlocked somehow or other." "Curious," said Poirot, his eyes beginning to flicker with the green light I knew so well. "Very curious. They waste much time trying to prise it open, and then, sapristi, they find that they have the key all the time. For each of Hobbes's locks are unique." "That's just why they couldn't have had the key. It never left me day or night." "You are sure of that?" "I can swear to it. And besides, if they had the key, or a duplicate, why should they waste time trying to force an obviously unforceable lock?" "Ah, there is exactly the question we are asking ourselves. I venture to prophesy that the solution, if we ever find it, will hinge on that curious fact. I beg of you not to assault me if I ask you one more question. Are you perfectly certain you did not leave the trunk unlocked?" Philip Ridgway merely looked at him, and Poirot gesticulated apologetically. "Ah, but these things can happen, I assure you. Very well, the bonds were stolen from the trunk. What did the thief do with them? How did he manage to get ashore with them?" "Ah," cried Ridgway, "that's just it. How? Word was passed to the customs authorities, and every soul that left the ship was gone over with a tooth-comb. And the bonds, I gather, made a bulky package." "Certainly they did. They could hardly have been hidden on board, and anyway we know they weren't, because they were offered for sale within half an hour of the Olympia's arrival, long before I got the cables going and the numbers sent out. One broker swears he bought some of them even before the Olympia got in. But you can't send bonds by wireless." "Not by wireless, but did any tug come alongside?" "Only the official ones, and that was after the alarm was given when everyone was on the lookout. I was watching out myself for their being passed over to someone that way. My God, Monsieur Poirot, this thing will drive me mad. People are beginning to say that I stole them myself." "But you also were searched on landing, weren't you?" asked Poirot gently. "Yes." The young man stared at him in a puzzled manner. "You do not catch my meaning, I see," said Poirot, smiling enigmatically.